Hello, everybody. Welcome to the DPA Essential Series webinar. We will wait a couple of minutes just to see if there's anybody else who's going to join. I'm Gareth. This is Richard. So I'll just see how many people are here. We've got the chat. Please, if somebody could just put something in the chat to let me know that you can all hear me, that would be really useful. How many people we got here?
Looks like Trevor's put something in the chat. Is it Trevor?
Yep. Thanks, Trevor. That's good. Obviously, that's working. And I trust you can all see us and the slides.
And Alan?
So before we get into the main bulk of the slides, we can just kind of talk a bit more generally. We've got one of these cabinets here. It's a nice blue color, but you can get them in any color. We can
customize the color for you.
Yeah. And the insides of it here. This is a Noark one. We've got a dummy battery in there. You can see all the pre-wired cabling.
Can we see the cabling?
Yeah. Cabling. But I'll close this, and when we want to illustrate a point, we can go through all that. I normally wear a hat.
Let's use a Noark hat.
You want the Noark?
Oh, it's a Noark hat.
I'll have the Victron hat. We got told off by the Victron guy for wearing the old hat. Last time I saw him instead of the new hat. So what are we? 3 past. Had one more person join. How many registered? Let me just check. There's 13 registered. I think we'll just start. And if we see anybody else join, they can just ask some questions or something. So thanks for coming. We're talking about, obviously, these lovely big cabinets that we are offering. They're modular, they're pre-wired, and they're designed for jobs where you're just going to want to get to site and not do too much work because a lot of the work is pre-done. And so they're IP65 rated. They're fitted with fan-forced cooling across all areas. And they're designed to be basically a drop-in type solution. Do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you keep going. There's we'll get to the different variants that we have, I guess. And this is the baby one. I guess we should say this is the baby one we have behind us. Yeah. This is the smallest of the variants. And we'll talk about the other options, the scale-up options. But you're 100% right. The key advantage is that the system is built and programmed and tested before you go to site. You just need to connect your DC and your AC.
Yeah, I think a lot of the premises that a lot of the time you might underestimate the amount of time it's going to take you to wire something up. And then if you're somewhere remote, that's 10 times the time if something isn't right. The amount of time you spend going back and forth and fixing things is just enormous the further you are away. So these are designed as time savers, but also I guess you're buying something that gets tested before it goes to site, and something that's you're paying for the expertise of somebody to design it and think it all through for the needs that you will have specified to us. And it's being done by people who use the equipment that's in there, which I'll go over in a moment, but it's mainly Noark and Victron and Discover batteries, who know that equipment really well and know what it can do and what it can't do. So there's a fair bit of value in that. I do tech support for DPA, most of you probably know, and there's a lot of the time there's things that you think something should be able to do and it doesn't, or there's things that Victron can do that people aren't aware. And there's huge value in just being familiar with exactly what's going to work and what's not. The custom options we'll come to in a moment. We've got rebate ready as well. So the batteries and the inverters that we're using in these are all available for the cheaper home battery scheme, for on-grid or off-grid, except for Victron is off-grid only at the moment. But we'll go through that in a bit more detail. So we'll get on to the main features. So we do these just with Discover batteries at the moment. It's the Discover rack mount battery. The way that they'll be shipped to you is without the batteries, like this, because obviously they're going to be really heavy. And then when you get to site, you're just going to slot them all in. The cabling is pre-wired for that. And so you're just going to bung them all on very long. And because they're a modular 19-inch battery, it makes it easy for any that need to be swapped out or replaced. Usually, when I'm talking about Discover batteries, I have a little BMS to show people. I haven't bothered to get it this time, but with the Discover batteries, not only can you change out the rack mount batteries really quickly and easily if you need to, you can actually just replace the BMS very easily, because unlike some of the other models, the BMS is not mounted to the inside of the chassis. It's actually mounted to the front plate. So you can just take the whole front plate off and put a new front plate on with a new BMS on it. So if you need to change that in the field, that's much easier done, more easily done than it is with some other brands.
Just a quick point on the cabling, Gareth. The current variant here is we've always looking to improve things for the installer, and with the cabling, we've made some changes so that the cabling is secured at each bay or each point, at each level,
Yeah, okay.
So that you're not having to, the installer's not having to ferret around and try and feed cables up. So that's pre-done to make a big difference to the installation, speed of installation. So if you buy one of the new variants, what the cabling will be slightly improved compared to what you just saw then.
Yeah, we take feedback. They're evolving units as well. So as time goes on, we get feedback from the field of things that people want, and they can be included on the next ones or included on the one that you're ordering. Move on to the next slide. So because we use the Discover batteries, all of them feature the Link Cloud Gateway as well. For those of you who don't know, the Discover rack mount batteries have this separate device. It's a bit like a servo with Victron, I suppose, and that talks to the batteries, and then it talks to the inverter over CAN bus to give all the details. And so it's a managed battery, but it has a few other tricks up its sleeve as well, which is that it has a link to the Discover online portal, and it also allows you to look at each and every single battery in detail in a way that you normally can't. So the CAN bus feed that goes to, say, the Victron or the Noark converter gives the overview of the entire bank, but it doesn't tell you what's happening with each individual battery. But when you connect to this device or look at it over the internet, it will tell you the state of charge, the voltage, the current of each individual battery. And so when you're installing it, you can see all of that overview, and you can see if there's any issues with an individual battery. You can watch them balancing. It just gives you a level of insight that you don't normally have when you're commissioning a system. They're quite a clever bit of kit, because it was designed basically so that they didn't have to retest when they put improvements into the system. They didn't have to retest the batteries. They just put the improvements, the software improvements, into the Link 2, and they don't have to retest the batteries, so they can roll out more improvements quicker than other companies can.
Just go back to the Link, I guess, Gareth. You've got programmable relays as an option in the Link. There's 3 programmable relays allow you to do things that might be applicable to the site. Audible alarms, visual alarms, generator start. I think another key advantage of having a Link 2 in your system is that we can share the data with us remotely.
Yeah.
We can share that data with our friends in Canada, and we can look at problems before they become problems, and we can certainly understand if there's been some unusual events in the field that might have caused issues that it may be difficult to diagnose with other battery types.
And that's because they're a Canadian battery, not just that we have friends in Canada. We want to give you information. But it's it's really useful for all of that stuff. And the relays, if you're using Victron, then it's quite a lot of relays and clever things you can do with that. But if you're using Noark, the relays in the link 2 will be pretty useful to you if you want to do that sort of thing. The generator start-stop is really good, and it's powered by the DC bus. So I think that's a bit of an advantage. And you can trigger things based on a huge range of parameters: voltage, temperature, current, power, quite a lot of stuff. It's really pretty extensive. So the monitoring platforms that are available with these systems, obviously, if it's a Victron system, then you've got the VRM portal, and we'll set all that up beforehand. If it's Noark, you're going to have the Noark portal. For those of you familiar with the Noark portal, there's a new one out, MyNoark Plus, which is quite an improvement from the previous one. They actually sort of piggybacked off another company that had an established, sort of well-worn portal, and they've sort of rebadged that, and it's much easier to navigate. I do like the previous one, but it didn't look very nice, But all the information was there once you got used to it. And then you got the MyLink Cloud portal for Discover, and I'll go through that in a bit more detail a little bit later on.
Is it true that the Noark platform is hosted locally? Or?
Yeah, it's hosted in Australia.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's one of the big differences between it and the day.
Faster.
Yeah, that too, and secure. So they come with a built-in DC switchboard. You can show that here, and you see there's a nice picture here of Richard looking very happy as he's using those. It's down the bottom on this one. Depending on what inverter you put in, it's going to, inside arrangement, it's going to be different. So you got the PV array isolator, and then you've got the battery isolator there as well. It has an AC switchboard that's on the side. Can't see that easily, but that's normal AC switchboard where you can wire in your connections from your generator and your connections out to wherever you're going to be going. It's all pre-done, nice and easy to use, customizable for what you might want to have. So sometimes people will have like dump loads or secondary AC loads based on some sort of priority that they want. That can all be programmed. It has a thermostat and a fan. And then there is also there's an aircon as an option as well, which we'll talk about in a moment, but they all come with a fan and the thermostat. And then just the physical layout of it, there's a few different models, but the base model we're looking at here, so it's a forkliftable cabinet. I don't know if you can see well on that picture there, but there's little plates down the bottom.
Removable plates.
Yeah, for the forklift times. Yeah. You can see that this one looks like it's on wheels. That's just a dolly we're using in the warehouse. It doesn't actually come on wheels. And then it has, does it have crane points?
No, it doesn't have crane points. So for lifting would be via sling, right, through the forklift tines.
Okay. And then you've got anchor points for fixing it to concrete on the bottom here. And it's made of aluminium, right?
The 2-bay is made of aluminium, but the 3-bay and 4-bay are mild steel.
Okay. So it's pretty light compared to if it was made the 2-bay will be much lighter in comparison to the steel. Anything else we want to say about the sort of the physical housing of it? It's got these, it's all quite nice quality. These handles here are really good.
I guess just the cabinets, the manufacturing of the cabinets, the 3 and the 4-bay are fabricated here in Victoria.
Yeah.
The 2-bay is an import.
But all the wiring is done.
All the wiring, all the assembly, all the
Yeah.
configuration, all done here in Vic.
Yeah. So just to talk a bit more about the Link portal. So this is for monitoring the battery system. So you have to connect, obviously, the Link to the internet, and it has to be an Ethernet connection at the moment. So you have an overview page here, much like you'd see for the Victron portal or something like that, but it's just talking about the battery. And you can trigger the relays in the Link 2 remotely from there. And then we've got, you can look at the configuration of the Link device remotely as well and make changes to that, which normally you wouldn't need to do that really remotely. That's all going to be done. And then it has a series of alarms. So you're going to have the normal alarms that would be via the Victron or the Noark portal, but then you've got these battery-specific alarms as well. So high and low voltage, state of charge, temperature, current, discharge current, loss of battery, battery fault, battery warning, and the relays. And you can set some trigger times and things like that as well. So this is really useful because it's a lot more detailed than you would get through the CAN bus, through the Victron portal. And then you can see each individual battery, as I was saying before as well. So you can see here, they're all 100 amp hour batteries, and you can see that their state of charge is 92, 91, 92, 92. And you can see their relative voltage and currents and things like that. So it's really good for checking to see that they're all happy and behaving as you expect them to. And the example I often give when I'm talking about this is just imagine you've got a big system in the middle of nowhere. When you put the bank in, you don't really know the state of charge of each individual battery. They tend to be all over the place. And then after a couple of cycles, they're all going to get to the same point. But actually, normally when you install a bunch of batteries, you can't see all this, and it's just a guess as to what state of charge they all are, apart from maybe some LEDs on the front. And you don't know how quickly they're going to synchronize with each other. But when you're using the Link 2, you can see all of that in real time and remotely. And after a couple of cycles, they should all come to the same spot. But if they don't, if you've got one of them that's not doing that, you'll be able to, not only are you going to be able to see that, but you're going to be identifying a future problem, because it probably, if it's dragging, it's going to work it harder. It's not going to come up as an error straight away. But over time it might do, but you're going to be able to see that straight away. And I think there's huge value in terms of your relationship with your customer, and also your ability to plan when you're going to go to site, is that you know about the problem before there's an error and there's an issue. So you're approaching the customer yourself rather than them coming to you with a problem. And the more batteries you have and the bigger the installation, the more of an issue that is. So here's an example of what that would look like. Looking at it remotely, you can see that one of them's got this high voltage alarm. And then I think this might not work. Okay, I'm using this webinar platform, and you import the slides, but my little animations don't actually
import.
No, it's not doing it. So this is supposed to be an example of a comparison between having it and not having it. And the basic premise is that without it, you have to go to site, you have to diagnose the problem, then you have to come home and go through the warranty process and go back to site and replace the battery if that's what needs to happen. Whereas without it, you already know what the issue is. You go to site, you replace the battery or whatever it is, and then you come back home again. So it's just an estimate of how long it would take, but it's roughly double without it.
I guess if we're running a VRM, we're looking at the average of the battery
that's right.
system, or MyNoark, it's the average of the battery system, which gives you some useful information, but not to the degree. Yeah,
a lot better than nothing. And you're still getting that from the battery, so you're getting the battery's idea of what its voltage is and its state of charge. And then if you're using Victron or Noark, I think in Victron you can see the terminal voltage that the multiplex is reading, and then you can see what the Discover thinks its terminal voltage is as well. And so that you can work out a lot by comparing those in some scenarios. And I think Noark you can get the terminal voltage too. I have to check on that. But yeah, so you're getting the state of charge you would see is for all of the batteries. And so if they were a bit wonky, if one's 90 the other one's 80, you're going to get 85. So sometimes it's useful to see more resolution on that.
If you were struggling to get the batteries up full, during a low, light period, whether it be smoke or fog or just wintertime conditions, you could potentially program an alarm to let you know that you're not getting enough charge. Maybe the generator needs to come in to top them up.
Yeah, there's lots of things you could do with that. There's the normal reporting through Victron, and then there would be the link portal alarms, which might allow you to more than maybe the Noark platform does sometimes.
Yeah.
But you could also actually turn something on if you wanted to, or turn something off, control dump loads. There's lots you can do with that with Victron. Noark's a bit more limited, which is where the link to would come in quite a lot. And we'll talk about that with the GX extender at the end too. So the options, the short story is you can have whatever you like. And it's highly customizable, but we are trying to sort of standardize it and give people, I guess, examples as we go along. The main inverters we do at the moment are Victron and Noark. We can do cell electronic, but it's not one that we've been asked for in this format as of yet, but it's no problem to do cell electronic, or I don't know what other ones would people ask for.
Oh, you might put a Solus in there if you wanted to go another hybrid, or an SMA, I guess, if we really wanted to.
Sunny Island maybe might be something people want. The Noark's good because it's a hybrid and it's pretty durable.
Yeah.
It comes in 3 different sizes. The 2-bay, which is what this is, and that's just sort of referring to these kind of slots. We've got the slot with the inverter and slot with the batteries here. We call that the 2-bay. We have a 3-bay, which is same thing. It's taller than the 2-bay, and it has 3 slots that can be configured in a variety of different ways. And then we call this one the 4-bay, but it's actually more of an 8-bay because it's got 4 at the front and it's got 4 at the back. So this one would have about 26 batteries at the back, and then all the PCEs at the front here.
With a low rise variant, it's 28 batteries, 7 per bay.
Yeah.
And with the high, it's 10.
Yeah.
And think of this as an alternative to fitting out a 20-foot container.
Yeah. So it gets pretty. I've got the dimensions. I'll show those in a moment. And then optional aircon as well. So aircon can be fitted to any of the models. Can you have 2 aircons?
You can have 2 aircons in the 4-bay.
Just in the 4-bay.
4-bay.
Yeah. You probably wouldn't need 2.
And I guess we say optional, but reality is if you're using Noark, some of the bigger variants, you probably want to have the aircon. We would recommend the aircon. In fact, we'd make it mandatory. Have
all of them had aircon so far?
Not all of them. No,
Okay.
Small of the 2-bay with products that have got enough fan ventilation. It's fine.
Yeah.
Putting them into climates like Northern Territory, absolutely want to have aircon up there.
Yeah.
Mainly for the PCE, not necessarily as much for the battery, but mainly for the PCE.
Yeah. So this is a quick table. So 2-bay, maximum number of batteries you can have in the 2-bay is 7. So that's 7 5-kilowatt-hour batteries. In the 3-bay, 15, right?
15 is right.
Yep.
5 per bay.
And then there's 2 variants of the 4/8-bay. We haven't been paying attention to the questions up here. Hang on, we'll get to those in a minute. Is 1.6 meter high 8-bay, and there's a 2 meter high 8-bay. So the 2 meter high can take up to 40 batteries, and the 1.6 can take up to 28. And then I've got number of PCE because you've got MPPTs and inverters for each one. I put one piece for the 2-bay, but you normally say if it's Victron, you're going to have an inverter and then you're going to have like a 450, 100, or 200 in there in front of it as well. So I should have put 2 pieces really. And then in the 3-bay, it's going to be similar, isn't it? It's going to be
so similar. You'd have an inverter charger and an MPPT if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Depending on how much DC coupled you want, you've got enough, because it's about the depth, and the multi-pluses are quite, they're not very deep. So you can have an MPPT in front of each bay if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But with the Trinix, or typically you're going to put a Trinix or the bigger Scion.
Yeah.
They take up a bit more depth, so you can only have 1 per bay.
And they so these can be done single phase or 3-phase as well, and depending on what sort of topology you're doing. We're doing one at the moment, which is 60 kilowatts. So it's 3-phase, 2 10-kilowatt Victron inverters on each phase. And then we've got the format, so 2 doors on the 2-bay, 3 doors on the 3-bay, and then the 4/8-bay has 2 doors on each side. And the rough dimensions down the bottom here. These are some examples of some sort of standard systems we've got on here. Is there anything you want to sort of say about these ones in particular?
Well, I think that the concept of standard is a really interesting point, because the reality is we've built all sorts of variants for people for all sorts of situations. So we put these out as kind of, ideas, but we've built them with 3 kVA, and we've built them with 15 kVA. We've built them with Noarks, 8s and 6s, and 3-phase 12s. And as you said, we're building one now with 6 multi-plus 10s to give us 60 kVA, and it's got a big switchboard on it as well. So they're standard, but the reality is, it's in this space. Everybody has a slightly different use case, and we can accommodate that.
And you can have multiple units as well.
You can also have if you need more storage capacity, you could have a battery-only cabinet added to it as well. Yeah.
So we've got questions here. Hi, Trevor. Okay, so Discover battery, does the BMS terminate at 55.2? So the way that it works is that the battery is broadcasting its maximum charge voltage to the inverter, and that's a dynamic value. So it does that in order to there's a couple of reasons, but a lot of it's to do with the balancing of the cells. So if it wants to balance the cells, it's going to broadcast a lower target voltage for the inverter to take the batteries up to, and then once it's happy and it's finished balancing its cells, it will then broadcast a higher voltage, which is sort of the end of the absorption phase. So that's the difference. The big difference between managed batteries and unmanaged batteries is that when you have unmanaged batteries, you have to have conservative values for your voltage and your current to fit all scenarios. So you have to have the maximum charge current has to be applicable for the top of the charge range and the bottom of the charge range, and all of the temperature ranges. Whereas when it's managed, you can change those values, so you can charge it more in the middle and discharge it more in the middle than you might do at the top or the bottom. And it can dynamically control those, and it's in touch with the cell voltages and cell temperatures and things like that. So you can typically charge and discharge a managed battery more than unmanaged, and so it's going to broadcast its voltage to the system, and then the system will stop charging when it hits that. And if it doesn't change that value, then that's just the end of the absorption cycle, and then it will go to float. When you're setting these up, you still set the hard-coded values. In a Victron system, you'd still put all the charge parameters into the MPPT and the inverter, just in case it loses comms, just as a fallback mechanism. But whilst it's under managed control, it's just being told what to do by the BMS. How good are the Noarks on off-grid? Are they only for the thrill seeker installer? They're pretty good. They're because Noark is a rebadged day, and in the States they're called Solark, and in the UK they're called SunSync. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so there's actually heaps of these out there. So the thing I like about Noark and Day, and it's the same thing I like about Pylon Tech. There's lots of things about Pylon Tech people might not like, but the thing I like about them is that there's heaps of them out there, and there's heaps of information about them. So sometimes getting hold of Pylon Tech is a bit tricky, but you don't necessarily need to talk to them because there's huge amounts of information available on forums and from other installers, but just because there's so many runs on the board. And it's the same with the Day family, I suppose you'd call it. If you look at Solark or SunSync on YouTube, there's heaps and heaps of videos of installers talking about the minutia of how these things work, and they're all the same. The software is all the same. It's just the badge on the front and then the portals, and then the local support and warranty is what you're sort of going for with Noark. But we've sold quite a few for off-grid now, and I've got one here in the testing rig, and I've given it a pretty good whack, and I haven't had any trouble. We haven't had any trouble. But
you would size them differently. You would approach it differently compared to a transformer based.
Yeah, so it's not a low frequency transformer based inverter, so it just doesn't have the surge capability because it doesn't have extra energy stored in the transformer, right? So it doesn't have that kind of sagging, lagging, spongy ability that the transformer based one. So it depends on what you're doing. If you're doing something with industrial equipment and big surges, inductive or capacitive loads, definitely get the Victron or Electronic. But for other things, the Noark is totally fine. And touch wood, the only issues I've had with them myself for technical support so far have been commissioning stuff. I haven't had any stuff go wrong later. Can't think of any.
Generator?
Yeah, generator. So these come with generator inputs, and there's generator capability for both Victron and Noark or Electronic. There's various different ways you can make it interact with both inverters. You'll need to specify the size of the generator and make sure it's 2-wire auto start, all the normal things when we're ordering it. But yeah, that's all pretty straightforward, really.
And someone says something there. Thanks for the explanation. Is that?
Yeah, and are the cabinets listed on your B2B site? No, they're not, because they're sort of custom. Even though we've kind of got some standard things, but they're sort of custom at the moment. I guess we could move towards that at some point, but it would feel a bit dangerous. Someone just kind of buying off the shelf at the moment. But we've got this is an ordering thing I put together. So in general, you're going to speak to your sales rep, and then you're going to work out, what size storage you need, then what inverter you want to use, what MPPT, and then that will determine the bay size. So we still sort of hold your hand a fair bit at the moment.
We've got some mechanisms to capture that information, reflect that back, so that we build the right thing.
Well, that's what Trevor's asking. Do we have an order sheet?
Yeah.
We have a sort of a form that we fill out internally for it at the moment to record all of the requirements. We're going to have a sort of a wizard type online interface pretty soon to help with that sort of stuff. But these tools take a while to put together. So at the moment, you just go through your sales rep. But obviously, once you've done one, and if you want another one of the same thing, then that'd be easy to do. It'd be nice if people bought one of these on just click and bought it on the online form. But usually it's a bit more back and forth than that.
Yeah, it's normally we'd like this change or that change, and which is pretty typical of this space. You know, it's there's a lot of custom building.
We've got 2 on the shelf though at the moment.
Yeah, we have 2 on the shelf.
Yeah, I was saying, we should have done like a special for this podcast on.
Well,
those.
we could go back to the people in the audience and
Yeah,
the people that bothered to turn up. We could give them the special job.
Yeah. Hit us up if you can. What do we got? We got a Noark. Are they both Noarks? We got.
Oh yeah, Noark, and I think we have a Victron one available as well. Something like
that. Okay. So that's the ordering and the quoting. Do you supply a safety certificate?
Yes, we do come with electrical safety.
Yeah.
So they come with a bunch of documentation somewhere in here. I think there's all the certificates.
But the final certification have to be done by the
final
installer.
has to be done, but there is an inspection. There's an inspection program checklist which is completed.
Yeah. So all the manuals and things that the standards say that you have to supply is all provided by that, shutdown procedures, all that stuff. Yeah, that's all done. You've got all the nice labels and stuff here. So as much as can be done beforehand is done. Day 12 kilowatt hour. I'm not sure what your question is, Alan. Do we do the day 12 kilowatt?
Yeah, we've got one that's kind of been primed to go, but it's with the day 12, or you can interchange with the day 12 or the Noark 12. It's the same.
Yeah,
it's essentially the same inverter. In that variant, we've got 2 using one bay to have the 2 Trinixes.
Yeah,
2 Noark Trinixes, 12 kilowatts 3-phase to give us 24. 24 kilowatts, and then we're using 2 bays, filling up 2 bays with batteries so that we can get maximum storage.
Yeah. So that's most of what I've got prepared for on these. Is there anything we haven't really covered? Yeah, it's I think it's reasonably self-explanatory. The value is having it, is the testing and all of that stuff beforehand. So you're getting something on site which is been tested and is ready to go.
Ready, and can be mounted outdoors, indoors, if not.
And so the variables that can go wrong on site are greatly reduced.
I think some of the customers have told us that they're changing the way they do their available time for installs, and this helps them still use their expertise, which is deciding what type of equipment to use on site. It's not taking away that element, but it means that they're spending less time on site commissioning, connecting, but it's their work in terms of saying, hey, this is what I need. I've been to the site. This is what the customer needs.
And you must less likely to have cost blowouts because a huge amount of the time component of it is already factored in. Excuse me.
Yeah, I think we have one customer that loves this approach because it minimises exactly his risk for commissioning issues on site, cost overruns. And that's why he's going down that path versus moving away from the more traditional way of hanging, board on the wall and then setting out your inverters, etc.
Yeah, getting to site and finding you haven't got a tool for
or a cable or
there's one thing you haven't done before, one piece of equipment you haven't used before, and you get there and you find you need to have a reverse flux capacitor, something like that.
All the myriad of things I'm sure that the folks online have experienced.
Can we select Power Plus batteries? Not at the moment, because they're a different form factor. So if somebody really wanted that, definitely talk to us and we'd see what we could do. But it's sort of as it is at the moment, it's for a 19-inch rack battery, which Power Plus.
It's for a 3 RU versus a 2.5 RU.
You could move the shelves.
You can move. Yeah, you have to put in an additional shelf. Look, technically, it's possible.
Yeah,
technically, it's possible.
Just talk to us if you definitely want those. We'll work something out. But we'll move on to the Victron GX IO Extender. So this is a new product from Victron. So I'm just doing a very quick overview of this for people. It's a nifty little device. This is what it looks like. This plugs into your servo, and basically the idea of this is to give you extra controls for the Victron ecosystem. So you get an extra 2 relays, just like the 2 that are on the servo. You got a thing called a solid switch. It's similar to a relay, but it's designed for you to actually put power through it rather than control something. Right. And then you've got these digital in-outs as well. I think on the servo, the digital, they're either ins or outs. They're not both. I forget which. So this is really useful if you want to turn something on with a 5-volt signal or receive a 5-volt signal from something else. And then you've got pulse width modulation outputs here as well. There's a lot that you can do with that. Its specs are here. It's a little bit small for me to read. You've got the specs here for the how much you can put through the latching relays. And so, yeah, they're latching relays rather than regular relays, which means once you change them, they're going to stay in that state. So that can be useful for some types of generators, for instance, which require a latching relay rather than a pulse. And then you've got the contact rating of each of the relays here, and the same for the solid switch. So the solid switch can take up to 70 volts, 4 amps, and it can handle capacitive and inductive loads in a way that the normal relays can't. The main application for this is with Node-RED. So for those of you who don't know what Node-RED is a low-code programming environment which is now available native on the Victron servo. So it's a program that's loaded into the Victron servo. It has a separate web interface that you access, and within there you're going to get these nodes. And so say you've got the multi-RS, and that takes all of the values that the multi-RS or say the solar charge controller has and makes that available to you. So say it's the battery voltage read by the solar charge controller, and then you have these other nodes that you can link with that. So say a calculator or some Boolean logic. So you can say if the solar charge controller's voltage is 14 or above, and then you can do something with that information, such as turn on a relay or turn off a relay. And it can get as sort of as complicated as you like, really. So I've used it here to actually to control the Noark on the basis of what the Fronius inverter is doing, because it can talk to both of them with Modbus. You can use it as sort of a commissioning tool. You can use it to create web interfaces with gauges and charts for customers to look at. But a lot of the time, it's going to be for controlling dump loads, turning lights on and off, measuring pumps, or using pulse width modulation to control various devices. You can do a huge amount with it if you're in a situation. There's with people doing things like chicken sheds and things like that when they want to monitor the temperature of the chicken shed. They want to make the door go up and down, all sorts of extra things like that. You don't need a separate PLC. You can kind of do it all in-house with the Victron, and you can access it over the remote console. So it's hugely powerful what it can do. It's a whole topic, and I have done a separate webinar on it in the past, and I will do it again. But basically, this device, the GX IO Extender, is to give you extra real-world inputs and outputs for that environment. And the values are only available in Node-RED. The extra relays won't show up in the normal servo. But it's really useful for those sort of more complicated type setups, or just when you want to add extra value for the customer. It's something you can offer, and we can help a little bit to familiarize you with that. we're listed as an integrator for the Node-RED environment by Victron, which means they sort of approve us to write some of the software for people. But you can do a lot of it yourself, because Node-RED it's not a Victron platform. It's a platform. It's an open source platform that they have incorporated into the Servo, but you can install it on your computer or on a Raspberry Pi or whatever you like. And so there's huge amounts of information about how to use it and how to do things with it out there, because it's used for purposes other than renewable energy. Yeah, so it's a really interesting thing, and this little device is basically to help people do things like that. It can be as simple as turn the light on when the battery's full, turn it off when it's not.
Yeah.
You know.
So this is, recently released. Yeah.
Yeah, this little device came out about 2 months ago. I think it became available, and the Node-RED thing has been available for about 1.5 years or something like that.
Right.
But it's it's deep nerdery, really, but it's fun once you get into it.
They love their this type of kit. They're strong engineering company.
It's
all the way to the top.
That's right. Yeah, I spoke to Matthias Vader, who's the head of Victron. I told him, I asked him if he was going to make it available for non-Victron products, but he didn't like that. Didn't like that idea. But the portal is so much better than everything else by such a long way, and something like this puts it even further, because now you can pretty much do whatever you want. Really. It's for any home automation stuff, so it will interface with MQTT, Modbus, general TCP packets, just pretty much anything you can, because when you load up the programming environment, it has a bunch of nodes in there, but you can add more. People make them and they go into the library, and you can just add them in, and it's just the whole thing.
So we talked about the fact that this, going back to just bring it back to this a little bit. So close the door there. So this one would, if it was a Victron, would have a Ekrano in the door. This is blank, obviously, so you can see a Noark, but in the Victron world, it would come with an Ekrano.
That's right.
Potentially, if you needed extra functionality, you could add this extender to that Ekrano, because the Ekrano is a Servo with a screen built combined. Yeah.
And you can also, there's a new thing from Victron where you can load a special firmware onto an Android tablet and have that as a remote display. And if it's on the same local area network, so the customer could have that in the house or something. I've done a few for people so far. But with the Noark, they don't have a screen. There's a few options for having a remote screen for that we can offer as well. There's one that I'm playing about with in the workshop at the moment. It's not quite sort of ready to be on like a screen like that, but it works really well over the network to look at it on a PC. And it's with a tool called Solar Assistant that we can make available for people. So there's options for that as well. Any more questions? Don't think so. And we're about on time as well. So the slides are available. I've put them in the resources tab, but I think I need to do something here. There we go. So I've just shared the slides, so you can download that now. We'll just see if there's any more questions from anybody. If anybody has any suggestions for the type of features they'd like to see, you could tell us now. David, do you think there's anything? CPD points? No, I mean, I'm not an electrician. I don't know if that makes any difference for CPD points. But no,
you have to register. You have to go through a process of registering them.
Yeah, you have to pass through the eye of a needle, I think, to give it CPD points for your training. I think it's a whole thing. We might do it at some point, but it would be for a repeatable regular course. Training. Yeah. We're keen to know, actually, put in the comments, the chat, I should say, if people are keen for in-person training to come here. I did do one. The very first training that I did was supposed to be in person, and nobody turned up because they all thought it was online. But that's, that doesn't mean that we won't do any more in the future, because I think there's value in actually being hands-on. The needle is constantly moving.
Yes.
That's the metaphorical needle, I'm assuming.
Yeah, metaphorical.
Not the space needle. Technical advice support from yourself or TAS representative? It's me for TAS. For me and my colleague Jeff and David, technical support, and we just cover all of Australia. Jeff is a new guy, just come on board, training him up. He's very good. David's been around a long time at DPA.
And I think David's planning a trip to Tasmania very shortly. So
there you go.
He'll be down your way. Who was that?
That's from Alan.
Alan. I think David will be down your way shortly. I think David's tuned in, right? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, we'll wrap it up here. We're basically just under an hour, which is good. The slides are there, and we'll make the video available on our YouTube channel eventually.
Yeah. Another good session. Wired by DPA. Is that the little tag we're running, Gareth? Is that right? Wired by DPA.
Wired by. I thought you said wired by DPA.
No, wired. I think it's wired.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's the. I think that's what Alex came up with for the marketing. Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.